Hello and welcome to this budget series specifically on etcfo.com, ETCFO Budget 2022. This is our third series, and I have top minds today as well from the CFO fraternity and also tax expert here. And we are going to discuss not just the budget expectations, but how the government should actually plan the long-term strategies and what actually India Inc. needs. Ladies and gentlemen, we discussed many aspects in last 2 to 3 series that we conducted on ETCFO platform, where we discussed how the ease of doing business is important, how the policy framework is, government should work on the policy framework where the India Inc. will get, far more better clearance policies, and also, they should spur the investments specifically in the infrastructure sector and the manufacturing sector. Uh, Keeping all this background in mind, let me introduce you to the speakers that I have here with me today for today's session on the ETCFO Budget 2022. My first speaker for today's discussion is Mr. Anil Gambhir, the CFO of Blue Dart Express. Mr. Gambhir, glad to have you. My next speaker for this particular session is Mr. Nitin Khanna, the CFO of Innovate Malls. Mr. Khanna, glad to have you. And my another speaker for this panel discussion is Mr. Rakesh Nangia, the chairman, Nangia Anderson and India. Mr. Nangia, glad to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Amol.
So thank you, gentlemen. I'm glad to have you here. So obviously, I have a few common questions and then some specific questions for each one of you. But to begin with, let me have opening remarks from all of you. And my first question to Mr. Gambhir is, what is your wish list? What do you expect from the budget 2022?
So I think, Amol, let me first start with the budget which we had last year, the 2021. I think that budget, in any case, was a kind of a path-breaking budget, where it was prepared basis the six main pillars, which was more towards futuristic and growth-oriented. And I guess investment or the further emphasis on growing those six pillars or investment in those six pillars would continue. In addition to that, there could be newer areas where focus could be. And when since we are CFOs that look at value addition, so first I'll talk about where there could be better value addition and could be taken up and has featured sometimes in discussions, which could be taking up a very ambitious project of linking all the rivers in India, so that it not only brings in a lot of value addition by way of ensuring that every wherever there's a shortage of water, water is available, and also agriculture activity can take place. At the same time, damage caused by flooding or less rain, all that can be taken care. So that could be one area where government could focus on from the budget point of view on a macro level. Second could be judicial reforms. When we're talking about ease of doing business, I think many people always look at it that whether the way kind of delay happens in the judicial system, which probably is overdue kind of a scenario, because we know that government has taken many basis solid reforms, and probably this is an area where focus could be required. These could be on, in addition to the continuing infra spending which people are talking about. Now, from general level to coming to our own industry, I think that there has been a lot more policy initiatives which government has already undertaken, and be it we talk about infrastructure improvement, road, rail, or even waterway side. In fact, the one which I talked about linking rivers could also pave a newer way of taking things, logistic system, making it better based on waterways. That could also help. In addition, I think there have been a number of policy initiatives after having given logistic, industry status to logistic industries. There could be further enablers to ensure that logistic cost, which generally we talk about 13 to 14% of the spend, need to be brought down to 8 to 10%. And the finance minister last time did mention about it. But there are still many more enablers which are required, and one of them could be high fuel cost, which probably adds to the high cost. And in the last year, from a pandemic time, there were duties were increased. So if duties were to be rationalized, and fuel prices are brought down, inflation will come down, logistic costs also will come down. So these could be the initial thoughts on the expectation side, which should work on. Apart from quite a few things which we can talk about in later part.
Right. Thank you for adding your opening remarks here, Mr. Gambhir. I think valid points through the points that you mentioned. Let me come to you, Mr. Khanna. Can I have your opening remarks?
Hey, hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for inviting me on the panel, and I'll just add on what Anil had said, the six pillars. So first, let's talk about the general expectation from a CFO, more from a CFO perspective.
Sure.
Uh, I think there's a lot which the current government can do on the retiral benefits. We have heard about a lot which is there in the Western world, but this is something which I think we can look at as a massive change, structural change in terms of thought process from the government. I think there's a lot which have been discussed as well. Uh, we in a logistics and warehousing industry, there's a lot which has been seen and done in the recent past. I think this is one industry which the moment the entire retail industry is getting organized, this is one big piece which will help us. One is the infrastructure getting improved, second is the logistics and warehousing industry, special shops to them. Now coming back to our industry, I represent two industries. One is a retail part and another is a real estate industry. Mall industry is a capital intensive industry. So, and just to give you some analogy, we have around 4,000 employees for every mall, and that's the kind of employment we now normally provide. uh, this is one of the biggest entertainment centers now, for anybody in the urban population. It's a good time that the government thinks this is an industry now, like a small plant. We employ more than 4,000 people. We have bigger machineries like HVAC. There's a lot which goes on the back. So, like a manufacturing industry, there are various shops which the government normally gives. And from a structural perspective, I think this industry needs to be recognized as an industry. So that's one, which comes to the top of my mind. Second is, I think, post GST, RERA, demonetization, I think COVID has been the biggest hit for this industry. Uh, Balance the sufferings, I would say. The multiplex industry, many industries which are connected to our mall industries have been suffering. F&B, the restaurants have closed, many have declared insolvencies and all. So I think that's one expectation, that from these segmental industries, there has to be some shops which can balance the sufferings. And there are many, probably we can talk about as we progress.
Sure, Mr. Khanna. Valid points. Obviously, we'll get into more details in the next round. Mr. Nangia, I would like you to share your opening remarks on the budget expectations and highlight the changes that you expect in the taxation front.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, my panelist, taking it off with this interesting statements. Let me tell you one thing, basically, what I believe actually. This budget 22 actually is going to come at the most testing times never seen since independence. We know that COVID has been a black swan incident and it has been a blot in the world economy. And the pain which it inflicted, it cannot be fathomed. And the pain was not only the pain from health point of view, even it was a very heavy economic pain also. And this budget which comes in 22 time, I believe, the government is likely to open the purse very liberally. It looks likely to the real gala announcement day, I believe, that the government will take every possible step to restore the confidence of the business, individuals, address the pain, and look into the entire ecosystem which got very severely affected and badly shattered. And in this budget, I believe every strata of the society, every person in society, whether it's a corporates, different sector of the corporates, whether it's FPIs, individuals, salary owners, pension owners, old age, everybody is going to expect some sort of wish he gets some sort of relief from the government in every form and format is concerned. it looks likely this should be an real reform day coming out of with maximum challenges, maximum strain, maximum compromises, and we expect the government will really come out with a massive dosage of investment, massive dose of ease of doing business is concerned, putting more extra money in there, pumping in money, incentivize manufacturing, and including looking after the entire ecosystem of the economy is concerned to give a big dosage reform is concerned. So
Right.
I expect the budget will be really a laudable budget. A lot of initiatives has to be taken by the government to put the economy back into the stream.
Okay, noted your points, Mr. Nagi, and let's hope that the government will restore the things and put more money into our purse. Let's hope that. Sounds really good. Let me, start my second lot of question with more specific. But let me ask my viewers here, the participants, those who have joined us. You can simply ask the question to anybody who is present here at this panel. Simply in the chat window, and I will try my best to take this question. So, Mr. Nangia, Mr. Gambhir, Mr. Khanna will be able to answer the questions that you have. So, if you have any specific questions related to the topic that we are discussing today, please share your questions. So, Mr. Gambhir, let me come back to you now, and let's discuss in detail. So there are huge expectations, but I'm sure the government will also have a lot of challenges in fulfilling all the demands, right? But considering the adding the better value perhaps to your sector, okay, what is that you expect that government should and must do in 2022 so that it will really help the logistics sector to reach to a next level?
Yeah, sure. So, Amol, here issue which I was referring to in my previous, on response to previous question was related to the fuel prices. I think that today the major impact comes in because of fuel, both be it diesel petrol or be it ATF. So while when GST was implemented, there was a 2-year window which was kept, and after that, it was to be reviewed that whether fuel prices to be brought under GST or not. I think now we are more than 4 years down the line, but still that decision is not taken. Maybe because there are compulsions from states' point of view, because they have lion's share of taxes on that. However, while petrol and diesel could be a area where a lot more discussions required, I think ATF is an area where we government can easily take that decision, because this impacts very few states, and also give a required impetus to the airline industry. And we also run airline, the cargo airline, so that would help us in terms of doing that. Apart from that, I think from further, not only from ESG point of view or sustainability point of view, but also having a efficiency improvement, in the logistics sector, boost should be given for environment friendly vehicles, which are electrical vehicles. So there are quite a few incentives have already been announced, but those are more in passenger sector than in logistics sector or the goods carrier sector. I think that is one area where there could be some good work, is expected. Apart from that, government has also announced a revised policy or draft policy for drones, deliveries to drones. But there also, though policy has been announced, but at ground level, lot more action have to happen, lot more enablements have to happen, so that this becomes a reality and does not remain a pilot, which currently that is the state most of the people are looking at it. So that is one. Thirdly, clarity on the various statutes. While policy announcements are there or draft policies are in public domain for much longer time, I think those needs to be finalized so that there's a clarity as to what shape these policies are going to be implemented, including the new labor code, which is also pending to be announced, because our industry is labor intensive industry, where there also a lot more clarity, and from labor point of view is expected. If all that is taken care, I think that will go a long way, not only improving efficiency and logistic point of view, but also give big impetus to manufacturing industry as well, because logistic plays vital role in ensuring that there's efficiency in manufacturing and distribution.
Okay, meaningful one, Mr. Gambhir. I think GST fuel and efficiency improvement. I think good points there, Mr. Gambhir. Mr. Khanna, I would like you also to add some specific points, because you are getting to know two sectors. I can see a lot of state governments given some leeway in terms of real estate segment, right? In terms of stamp duty leeway, registration leeways, and all. I mean, that's for the new properties and everything. But retail policy is still a big issue, right? And you are also getting to a large audience, like you said, you have 4,000 people working in one single mall, right? So, what are maybe one key or 2 points that you think that should be there in the budget, that has to be there in the budget, the finance minister should not ignore at all?
No, I think what you're saying, Amol, is right. There has been, local benefits which has been passed on in the local levies, but that was only for a very shorter duration. I think this industry has suffered a lot. I think we need a lot, in terms of, I would say, relaxation in property tax in relation to, stamp duty, rates. There was a marginal reduction in the stamp duty rates, and you had seen that in from January to March in entire Maharashtra, the kind of residential sale it has happened. So while we are looking at huge private investments coming in and getting the sector, the entire economy, uh, a push from real estate sector, and this is one sector which contributes to almost 6-7% of GDP, and from a construction industry specific, I would say that look, post ILFS we have seen a little liquidity dried up in the market. I think the we have liquidity in pockets which is available on one side, but there is a completely dried off liquidity on certain MSME sectors. So there are quite a bit of reforms which finance minister did suggested in between, including some new industries in the MSME definition. But I think that's something which they should do in this budget. That easing of the liquidity should be done. The second part is REITs, the Real Estate Investment Trust. I think that's something which has come only right now, whereby the real estate, actually is going participating in the capital market. I think that's something should be encouraged a lot. Whether it's from, so now it is only the commercial and the retail segment who can go and do a REIT, but even from a residential perspective, there has to be something which the industry can take out from the market. So one is definitely the liquidity part. Easing of the borrowing cost, that's something which again hits us a lot. Though the finance minister did gave us some period, cooling off period in terms of interest payment, but that didn't help us a lot. So I think this is one part which will definitely help this industry to go to the next level. And of course, I'll not talk more about, because Anil has already spoken on the labor laws easing off, because again this is a labor intensive industry, and we need a lot of labor related reforms in that. So I'm not going to repeat that, but these are two top of my mind industry related reforms which the finance minister should do.
Okay. Uh, Thanks, Mr. Khanna. I think very, very valid points, and you're absolutely right. The kind of crisis that happened in the whole BFS and the lending sector after ILNFS and BHFL, it looks like it may still take a little longer. Though at least those companies have now recovered, acquired by someone. But I'm sure the liquidity challenge is still there, specifically for the companies like you. Okay, so Mr. Nangia, let me come to you now, and uh, you know you made some valid points in terms of ease of doing business, opening comments, and this is a testing time for government. There are a lot of things the government has also done in maybe last 1 to 2 years. Apart from GST, there are a lot of updation on the GST side, the faceless assessments and everything. But industry, has been, and in fact, Mr. Gambhir also spoke about the judicial reforms. The whole industry in India has been asking about the certainty of the policies, right? The litigation should be reduced, the judicial uncertainty should be, there should be judicial reforms. So, Mr. Nangia, in your view, what are those 3 4 tax reforms or maybe the clarities which will help India Inc. that you expect from finance minister in budget 2022?
So, the main and the most important thing which any businesses wants in taxes are, let me number them first. We want a stability in the regime of the taxation regime. This is one of the most important things there. In India, the second biggest challenge has been the delay in litigation, the time that it takes to conclude a litigation or anything. It goes on for decades at times. And actually, like we work globally, we found that actually India was a country in the list of so many businesses, global MNCs, where they found that the litigation was highest worldwide. I'm saying worldwide. And this part of the process, the government has initiated a lot of steps in the recent past to reduce it, but I still wonder lots needs more to be done to see that the litigation time really comes to an end. And I give you one small example. Is it necessary that every litigation, forget the threshold, has to go to Supreme Court to achieve a finality? If a High Court judgment has come in, and if the government believes it's a right judgment, do we really necessarily, for the routine sake, needs to go to the Supreme Court? Can't government take a decided yes, we accept the decision of the High Court? I think the government needs to really this will be a plague with the system right now in terms of the time that it goes to conclude a certain litigation is concerned. And what happens? In the meantime, the entire litigation cycle for all subsequent years, you're adding into the litigation cycle. It becomes an unending process is concerned. So this is the second part is that. Third, in this budget, especially, I don't want any shocks. I hope you haven't got nothing. We don't want any surprises. We don't want any inheritance taxes. There should be no wealth taxes. Today, there is no more time to disrupt anything more. We are already disrupted a lot in businesses. Let's not disrupt by adding any more burden of taxation to the businesses that are concerned. Last interesting thing, if I want you to give me a minute, I can travel a little beyond taxation also, maybe more specific cases. The government actually has to make this has to be, which you rightly said it, what government cannot afford to bring at this time. They have to bring a extreme focus on investing money in the system is concerned. And last year we had a national infra pipeline scheme which was announced for 102 trillion rupees, largest ever in history. Basically, they have to take off. Basically, the Gati Shakti which was announced, they have to take off now. Basically, and the financial infrastructures institution which came in, infra national bank of infra financing and development, they have to uplift the investment led growth in the economy is concerned. And this, the intent should be to build a world-class infrastructure, which was there by inviting government and the public sector investment to support the growth trajectory. So even the Gati Shakti was aimed to integrate the entire multimodal connectivity at a pan-India level was concerned. This will pump in money. This will work like a catalyst to bring a growth in the economy is concerned. And here the bold decisions will be required for the government to do that, to open the purse, make it improve the supply chain line, and announce big ticket, make it ease of doing business. And I tell you one thing very interesting. One of our panelist members said, "I'm not interested in 63 number in the world ranking of ease of doing business. I have two challenges. 63 is too late. It's too we are back end. Second is the ease of doing business has to be done at state level also.
Right.
And you will have a set as a policy is concerned, but if you go to the state and you don't have an ease of doing business, I think then it becomes a challenge. And honestly, I'm telling you, go deep into the system, you find it is really intricate, really challenging for the businesses. And I see, though there have been a major improvement, but a lot needs more to be done and need to be done at a faster speed. We can't be laggard in terms of ease is concerned when we see the global is concerned. I mean, interesting. I made a balance sheet of government of India. Uh, what are the assets? What are the liabilities of this government? What are the opportunities? What are the threat? I will be happy as we go forward. I'll share you the strength also. There's a lot of strength in the economy. And I tell you what, and those can actually have a multiplier effect on the growth of the economy and consequently all the sectors. Yes, government has to look after certain sectors. I'll be happy to talk about that also.
Hmm.
I think Amol,
How?
I would just like to add one point here. Since you are
Sure,
talking
sure,
about the
Mr.
tax
Khanna.
part,
Hmm.
uh, I think the GST, when it came, it had a lot of teething issues. And I think those teething issues are still continuing. And while we are talking about stabilization, I think this is one big indirect tax where every line of business and every function gets touched upon. I think those teething issues needs to get resolved. Those are very important. So, say for example, there are local levies like Uh, I'll talk about my business, like ULCs. You have stamp duty, you have property tax coming in. I think these are the local levies. Now, the second stage of GST should take, should subsume all these local levies as well. Give GST benefits where there has been, sectoral differences. So, say for example, I'll give you my example. I am delivering services to the retail industry. I charge rentals to all the retailers. But when I construct a mall, I don't get a GST input credit. Now,
Mm.
the moment you don't give me input credit, what I will do, I'll increase my rental. The moment I increase my rental, the retailer will factor that increased rental in the product pricing. So
Yes.
ultimately, the cascading effect of tax, which we are envisaging from GST to go away, I think that's still not going away. I think this is and every industry has a point where this credit, the input credit, is not getting transferred or not reducing the cost. I'm sure Anil will have certain examples in his case also. So I think from a GST perspective, this is one lacuna which I personally feel. From a direct tax perspective, also, I'll just take one more minute.
Sure, sure.
Interest on borrowed capital. This impacts everybody. I am sure everybody has taken loan EMIs. Now, 2 lakh is very low amount, and we all know the kind of property prices in metros have the way it has risen. So I think these are the anomalies which government should go ahead and change it. I'm not saying you increase it to a substantial extent, but you look at the rationale of these, and change those sectoral indifferences which have been there for a long period. A transport allowance of 1,600 rupees. These are, you take a taxi 2 days, to and fro, in Mumbai, any place to any place. I'm sure it will be costing. Ola will be taking 1,000 rupees to and fro. So I'm saying, those are the issues which are hidden and which have been debated a lot. I think those needs to be corrected, even though there are smaller issues, but they keep pinching you hard. So
Mm.
these are a
Mm.
few examples. I can quote many, but I'm sure Anil was also raising his hands.
Yes.
Probably I'll just allow him to add.
Sure. Valid points, Mr. Khanna. Yes, Mr. Gambhir, please add.
I'll add my 2 cents on this. Mr. Nanya mentioned about 2 points. First, I will dwell on the ease of doing business. We know that we have improved our ranking to 63. But the fact is, when he talked about Gati Shakti, and Gati Shakti, which is prepared with the 16 department or 16 ministries on one portal to make sure that things move faster, through multimodal way. The point is a similar thing, maybe one that it needs to be implemented. Second, across departments. And when I talk about departments, various bureaucracies need to make sure that they also utilize this portal to get information rather than keep asking and submission of information from the businesses. Like today, if you make one application, I'm sure there'll be plethora of documents which will be asked. While if you have integrated portal where all these informations are available, so just to give an example, the moment you make an application, they'll ask you memorandum of association, article of association, your PAN number, your TAN number. You will be asked balance sheets, all this. You have already filed this information available to some department. Now, why do you need it again? If you have integrated portal, all this information is available. Simple thing, simple form should be asked to be filled up and backend. The moment you get a common key or company registration number, you should be able to pull in all the information which is filed with ROC so that that information is used. Today, you make a one credit application, you will be, hundreds of documents you will be asked for. Why do you need that? You already have those document available. So this is where it helps in doing ease of doing business rather than keep insisting. So that's one side on the ease of doing business. The other side on GST, I think somewhere one that we need to somewhere bring in accountability of bureaucracy so that if they do unnecessary adjustments which are maybe you are not interpreting law in rightful manner, then that should have reflection on the official's efficiency and the remarks on his working, so that he is careful in doing that. Otherwise, what happens? He always plays safe and very conservative, wherein he just keeps undisputed amount also will get disputed, and then keep fighting across the channels and go up to Supreme Court to get the finality of it. I'm aware of the cases where there's a specific provision about a particular thing, but still officer takes an interpretation. No, I will classify this under a residual, this portion, so that the benefit of a specific, provision which is given is denied, and you get into residual thing where you have high rate of interest or high rate of tax to be paid, and then you keep fighting that despite telling officer that look, there is a special provision for this. That's why there's a lower rate of tax applied. But then he doesn't agree, because he says, okay, you keep fighting and keep adding to the legal cost, and also keep adding to the legal cases. So all these things somewhere referendum on the officer who does this kind of job, disregards the specific provisions which are given. I think that could help in terms of getting accountability and some balance in the working.
Amul, can I add something here? You permit
Sure,
me?
sure, sure, Mr. Nangia, please.
Yes, see, let me, I said it in the beginning, I will have made a balance sheet of the government basically. And let's see this balance, and this we believe will be give a direction to the budget likely to come. Let's see exports. Exports were 39% up in the month of December. It's the first time in history we'll be crossing $400 billion exports.
Right.
Imports in December were up by 38%.
Hmm.
Our foreign exchange reserves are $630 billion, $630 billion right now. Our tax collection is more than, basically, you see, will cross by 25-30% than what is there announced in the budget last year, basically.
Right.
We are very, we have done a collection of 10.8 crores, 10.80 crores, 10 lakhs, sorry, 80,000 crores by December, and budgeted is 11 plus. We'll cross this by easy. GST historic 1.3 1 lakh 30,000 crores, very excellent figures. Non-tax revenue, let me share with you, was 92% has been achieved till now. Last year, year to year, it was 32% basically. Whatever the reason may be there. Growth, you see the growth indicators are looking positive today basically. And India GDP is likely to grow at 9.2% in current year. Obviously, it was on the low denominator of the previous year. And surprising, very interesting, Indian Inc. had borrowed money, raised money of $6 billion in last 2 weeks in bonds. Shows the strength of the economy. See the tax earning basically. We have higher, we may, in what we see next year likely. We see a higher divestment receipts likely to come. We believe the robust taxation collection tax will continue to go up higher and higher as we go
Hmm.
forward. Government will look forward for asset monetization basically, and
Hmm.
depending on whether this year our target was 1,75,000 crores on divestment, depending on LLC where it happens. But next year, I think government will be fully firm on the saddle to see that they are able to raise money to that extent is concerned. And let me tell you is, let's see the liability side of the balance sheet. Rodi side, let's take that. Yeah. World Bank has put the growth down from 9.2% basically. Inflation is at 5.6%. I must tell you, is the biggest number one worry of the government of India today. And the upper tolerance level of the government is 6% actually. And if it happens, it will
Right.
lead to the tightening of the monetary policy. This will derail everything. The biggest worry with the government is this. Let's see IIP. It fell down to 1.4% in December, maybe because of the wave, actually, third wave. But it's a very serious worrying part. See the commodity prices. Prices are hitting the roof. You see the fuel prices, you see the steel prices, you see any construction material prices are concerned. All commodity prices have gone up high and is visible change the price. See the unemployment creeping up. It is close to 8%. 35 million people is unemployed basically. See the stress in MSME books actually. 99% of MSMEs are tiny industries and they are 63 million units of in there. And they contribute to 33% of India manufacturing is there. And there's serious stress, very serious stress. I think government need to really deep dive into that. 84% of the household income has fallen down. Fiscal deficit is 6.8% basically, and as compared to last 9.2, we expect 6.8. Again, very very high. A lot of
Hmm.
fiscal consolidation will have to be done. This is something I felt to share you. These are the liabilities which you see that. So government has a challenge on fiscal deficit, inflation is there, and government need to really address them. It will be a difficult budget, very fine balancing to be done to meet the entire ecosystem of businesses, demands, reduction of taxes, and that's what I just summarize where the government of India balance sheet stands today.
Okay. Very, very meaningful points, Mr. Nangi. I could remember my TV days where I used to have a terminal and we used to look at the screen constantly. And I must say that you should, along with the taxation, offer some economic advisory as well. The kind of data that you are following, and by hearting it and also presenting it to it. Very valid points, Mr. Nangia. All the economic, in fact, more than if you look at 15 to 20 indicators, economic indicators, shows some positivity. The RBI has also maintained the accommodative stance in the 4% policy repo rate, is the lowest since decades. So at one side, that is a positivity. On the other side, India Inc. has been raising funds not only from the highest investors in India, but also from globally. So in a way, the situation looks really nice. But I will take this question and bring you back, Mr. Khanna. Here, this question is obviously asked by some participants, and I think this is in line with what you said some time back about the GST rebate and everything. So this question, Mr. Khanna, is about what kind of challenges do you face in a policy front in terms of clearances while building a malls, and what kind of relaxation do you look into it? I mean, do you expect? I think this is a very specific question, and you partly mentioned that, but if you want to add to it, Mr. Khanna, would be really good.
So I'll give you a realistic example. We are looking for a business development opportunity, and as Mr. Rakesh Nangia was talking about, divestment of you know government sector. There are huge parcels of lands which are available with railways, airports, HPCLs, BPCLs of the world. And without naming the specific place, we went and we were looking for a land which is owned by one of the government agency, I would say. We have been debating with this agency for almost like 5 months.
Hmm.
There's a 20-30 acre land,
Hmm.
and normally for a mall we normally need 7 to 10 acres. We normally build a million square feet mall.
Hmm.
So the first is the land part. The biggest challenge is the land. Normally when you get land, there's a huge afforestation, and then there are compliances. So the moment you start cutting, there will be local issues. Without naming any political agencies, there will be local issues from a forestation perspective. There will be compensation which will be given to certain housing, might have been occupied illegally, etc., etc. Because government will not take that pain to ease that off. So I'm talking about only the land part.
Hmm.
Now, while Anil was talking about the moment you have to apply for any tender, there is a huge list
Yeah.
of documents, and
Yes.
every list of eligibility you need to tick off. You need to have 5 years construction. You need to have. Now, tell me, if a foreign investor wants to come to India and wants to build a mall, he can't do without any local partnership, because you need to have 5 years experience in building malls.
Yeah.
So when you talk about ease of business, that kills off the first basic entrance into this segment.
True.
The second part is, while you are buying a land, there are 15 20 agencies where you need to take approvals from. So there is a road, there is a traffic, there is a fire NOC. You need to go to the airport for the height. You need to go to the local agency from religious places, how far that place might be, place from the school, how far it is from what you call it, the ATC tower, which controls. And then if there are
Right.
any cantonments nearby, then you have a serious problem. So
Yes.
huge lot of issues if you have to buy a land. And then construction. The second part is the construction. You don't have a GST credit coming in construction. So anytime, for us, we are looking for a brownfield opportunity rather than a greenfield opportunity. So just to give you a data, Amol, in the entire country, there are only 50 to 60 quality malls.
Hmm.
In a country of 130 crores, we have only, and there's a huge amount of retail which we can do. Mr. Nangia was talking about push to the economy and how it can come. It's a huge consumption economy. We have seen increases in income, we have seen an increase in consumption, but this is one industry where you need to put the bait on to increase consumption in the retail sector. I can tell you some of the cities where there is 40 lakhs population and you don't have a single mall in that city. So
Hmm.
and we all know that this is the only place of entertainment which is there. In Corona time, the first thing you do is when you are off from the lockdown, you go to a mall, you do shop, you eat out, you go to the multiplex. So you get a plethora of activities over there to make sure that you ease off your stress. You meet people, etc. So I think this is one industry. If government has to put bait on, has to kind of invest. To answer that question, I'm not sure whether I have answered that question. I just put my plight on what is the plight of constructing a mall which has a payback of more than 7 years, and it takes 3 years to 5 years to construct a mall.
Right. No, no, I think you answered that question and in fact explained it really well. These are the actually user case studies, right, which you face on a daily basis and the major challenges that you face. Mr. Gambhir, do you also, take this question similar to Mr. Khanna and add more into it? Because, in your sector also, there are a lot of discussions, waterways, the drone policies, but I'm sure drone is also facing a lot of issues in terms of the policy. So do you want to add here some inputs in terms of the clarity that you are looking for?
So you're right. Prior to this draft policy, there were a number of approvals which were required, and we were wondering whether we'll be able to get all those approvals. Because number of like Nitin mentioned, local authorities are involved, be it state government, be it DGCA, be it fire department, police department, all of them, because you never know how the government side is, if you want us to look at it, that what if somebody misuses the drone, because it could be question of privacy of people, it could be misuse by doing something illegal activities. So from that point of view, there were a number of restrictions, but thankfully government has come out with the policies which does away with a lot of requirements, and in fact enables drone to be flown for the purpose of commercial exploitation, and that's why this pilots have started. So similarly, when we put up, we also have hubs being put up in far off locations. So similar kind of situation we also face. That first it needs to be constructed, and thereafter all these plethora of approvals are required. And more so because what happens for them still it is organized. For us, all sorts of industries material comes in. Be it in food stuff, it could be something which is chemical, something could be hardware. So many kind of things, because it's assorted items needs to be stored. So all that those needs to be taken care to make sure that when you put up a hub, you have all requisite approvals in place, so that you're not violating anything.
Okay, okay. Noted your point. So, Mr. Nangia, okay, sure. I wanted to come to you, but if you want to have
Yes,
a
I
rejoinder,
want
please
to
go ahead.
add. Yeah, I want to add something very pertinent. That's the reason I raised my figure. Certain sector, a specific sector, which needs a boost actually, and where the government must address. I need to tell you right to our audience here also. We need to incentivize hospital, the entire hospital infrastructure, declare them as an infra status to them, accelerate depreciation to them, give them investment allowance. Today we have suffered. Government needs to work on a really after three waves. Actually, we do not know what happens in future, but we need to do that. The government need to look into this sector. We need to look into the NBFC sector. It's a second lifeline for the government for funding, financing is concerned. The government must really take bold steps with all the safeguards, declare them a priority sector lending that is being done by them, open a special window of refinancing for them is concerned, declare them some how they can move funds so that they are, become an alternative to banks in terms of funding the rural structure is concerned. The whole industry will get a boost as a parallel part is concerned. Give incentive to all the new age businesses, green technology, data centers, EV centers. Why we need to stop on PLI by allotting 2 lakhs crore? If you want the manufacturing to play an important role, if you want manufacturing to shift from China in real sense, this has to continue to grow into more and more sectors, incentivize them today. And we should not limit to 2 lakhs crore, increase more and more businesses concerned who have become entitled for them. So help the sectors which suffer, the hospitality sector, the aviation industry, give them infra status, give them moratorium. Actually, you the pain this is going through this whole ecosystem of tourism, hospitality, aviation is extremely high. See the losses of the aviation industry, maybe 20,000 crores, which is likely to be announced by all the aviation companies are concerned. So they need to be helped and given a special dose or special window is concerned. And as I said it again, make something NBFC like you have give them. I'm repeating it, but needs a they become a parallel independent source of money to the businesses concerned. And finally, the real estate sector. I think that
Sure.
level of confidence needs to come back, including check on the prices, which is really a very big challenge today in terms of inflation is
Sure.
concerned.
Sure, Mr. Nagia. I think you mentioned about the incentives to hospital sector. There is an interesting point, Mr. The CFO of Manipur Hospitals raised. He was part of the budget session in the first series, and he said that fortunately, I am not part of the GST. I mean, the hospitals are excluded from the GST, but all the other service providers who are partnering with the hospitals are part of the GST. So he is not paying the GST. He doesn't know much about the input, credit, and output, but he has to deal with all the GSTs because the insurance companies, the service providers are dealing, and that is the major challenge that he faces, right? So I think there are a lot of these such loopholes. I'm sure the government will also understand if they look at all these aspects very clearly. But Mr. Nangia, let me ask you a very specific questions. The global minimum tax is going to be here now. Okay, digital equalization levy will not be here. Okay, once this is implemented.
Yes.
Considering all these major changes that is happening, do you think that the government should perhaps give more time to the industry, to continue with the global minimum tax, or are we okay with the deadline the government has has fixed?
For interesting part, let me share with you. India is a very few countries which are going to gain from GMT, the global minimum taxes.
Hmm.
When the global minimum taxes become 15%, so 140 countries in the world have agreed, except 8 or 9 countries have not agreed to this, changing to
Hmm.
the 15% taxes, because India has anyway more than 15% taxes. But
Hmm.
when Indians are earning money, the Indian companies are working in Middle East or in tax-friendly jurisdiction where the tax rate is low, and they're not paying taxes there. What are the options you have? It either you pay the top of taxes in India, so Indian government is going to win. Indians government will be getting collecting a lot of decent amount of taxes are concerned when GMT is implemented worldwide. And now today, let me tell you, it's a world now. 140 countries, nobody can get out of it now, and you're not worried about 7 8 countries which are small countries. Basically they will have to
Right.
fall in line. So this legislative produce to introduce this thing is likely to come in this budget, where you find that Indian government is likely to earn or gain, sorry, 75,000 crores by this global tax abuse, which they believe the money will come to the government is concerned,
Hmm.
basically.
Hmm.
And worldwide, I'm going to show you interesting thing. Every year the gain is likely to be $300 billion actually, when GMT is implemented in next 2 years is concerned. Equal levy was a substitute or the interim grab tax collection by the government. So this will automatically collapse the moment the GMT comes, basically. The interesting part is this, basically, if what happens when the whole world implements 15%, because if you're paying 0% in Dubai and Indian government says you better pay me that 15% what you earn in Dubai in India, the Dubai government can say no, I'm going to introduce 15%. Why should I let the tax to go to the government of India actually?
Hmm.
So what happens when the worldwide the minimum taxes become 15%? So this will be a very interesting thing that is likely to happen actually when the GMT is implemented. All of the levies will automatically collapse. It's worldwide actually when the GMT comes.
Okay, noted your points, Mr. Nangia. Uh, Mr. Gambhir, now let me reverse the questions, and I have one common question for all of you. We discussed in the opening remarks what should be the major expectations. We discussed what are the specific demands, maybe because government may not do everything. for your sector. Now, my question to you, to all of you is, we start with you, Mr. Gambhir. What is that you don't want to see in the budget? What is that you think that, and you want to pray, ki, let government of India should not do this in budget 2022?
So we don't have much of control on what government does it, but definitely we don't
Exactly.
want to see anything which is done retrospectively and which is a shock, comes as a, either it makes Indian industry incompetitive, or reduces the competition, or increases compliance burden, because already there's a lot more efforts under GST which have been put in to ensure the compliances are done. So I think there's a need for reducing the burden of compliance rather than increasing. So anything which comes to additional compliance, or which is a surprise or comes retrospectively, definitely we don't want to have that.
Yeah, sure, sure. Mr. Khanna.
I would expect that financial year to remain same. I don't want more quarter closings to come in. As a CFOs, you know, uh, we talk a lot about digital transformation, um, and we always have certain budgets, which are kept for. We transform every year. We look at the new digital technologies, etc., etc. One thing which I don't want to, the budget to give us is more list of compliances, as Gambi, Mr. Gambi rightly said,
Right.
more paperwork. When one side we are saying we want to have paperless offices. Uh, One application in NCLT requires more than 500 signatures. So, and that too from three authorized signatories. So you can imagine my directors take almost 1 hour to sign those applications. So something which I will not repeat what Anil had said. I think this is exactly what we are looking at. No surprises in the budget. Some things which makes things more complex instead of simplifying, and no more compliance burden. This is something, we as CFOs now we should start thinking about strategy, how to boost consumption, how to partner business to take business to the next level, rather than thinking of what are the list of compliances which I have to submit tomorrow, or there is a due date, and auditors are asking again additional information because they have to give something to NAFRA and all. So those kind of agencies, compliances, surprises should not be there in this budget at least.
So just to add, I think COVID has already put lot of complications in the life, in multiple waves, and each wave has its own complications. So from that angle, I think, yeah, what do
Yes, yes. Exactly, exactly, and so many complications that Mr. Khanna will be busy whether to open the mall or not. What are the timings that we have to follow or not? How many notifications that we have to issue, and how many people we have to you know. I think
I'm sure, Amol, while you go to the market, the open markets, if you see, are busy, crowded, and all. Malls, I would say, I'm not saying just because I belong to this industry, but I still feel, if you stand unbiased, mall is much more controlled environment where there's a marshal. Somebody will come to you and say, you wear your mask on. We have air conditioning, which is at a certain degree. You don't allow people who are not double, but still, the moment there is a wave coming up, the first industry which the state government looks at is close the mall. So I
yes,
think,
yes,
what you said is right. We need to be really rational, not only at the central government level, but even at the central government level.
yeah. So, Mr. Nangia, what would you not like to see in the budget?
I think my panelists, my co-panelists have said it. I don't want to repeat them. I can only use a word, one word. We don't want any disruption. Please incentivize us to work. Please incentivize we produce more, and we just can't disturb us anymore in any other way is concerned. I said in the beginning, no new taxes, not to be tinker. I'm not expecting any tinkering of the taxes are concerned, and anything which belongs should facilitate it, ease it, cut down the litigation cycle. I think. Sorry, this is I'm saying what I said in the beginning, but I can again repeat my word. No disruption, no new taxes.
Okay, noted your points. And one more question, last question, and specifically a common question to all of you. Mr. Nangi, I will start it with you. We have seen a great surge in the startups. They have been raising billions of dollars. So what do you think the government should do, so that this place will blossom? Because a lot of investments coming from the foreign land, and I'm sure even Innovate Mall or even Blue Dart will be must be partnering with some startups in some way, right? So what kind of initiatives that government should take to help startups to grow? Mr. Nangia.
One, one is not to interfere. That's the easiest way of saying it. But let me tell you, second is incentivize it.
Right.
The important part is this. Startup, how many startup have become unicorn in India? We're
Hmm.
close to touching 100 in this current year. And India in unicorn, we are the third largest in the world after US and China is concerned. This year we had 52 in 1 year. And we are heading for 100 in the current year. So third in the world. And see, the startup has raised money in the stock market. What a paradigm shift. The whole stock market was on the conventional industry. It's the first time the new age industry have flooded the market is concerned. See the funding which has gone up. There is a 300% growth of funding in startup in the COVID year. There has been a $36 billion money has come in as compared to $11 billion money that came in the previous year is concerned. I think we must respect it. It has become the backbone of for every sector is concerned. They create employment, they bring innovations, they bring entrepreneurships, they come up with new solutions, and actually, in true sense, it's a golden era. Actually, can we ever imagine startup will be thinking of doing something in space, even in India? The rules of the game are changing actually. Let it set free, basically put them some restriction what you need to put them, let them give a freedom to do the business. They get you everything what you require for them. And I'm telling every person here, this decade there'll be explosion of mind in the
Hmm.
startup. Never unforeseen, you can't even imagine actually. And let me ask very interesting thing. You know which year the Gmail came in world? Only in 2004 or 5. Just 15 years back, we don't talk about it. See the revolution that has taken place post that. See the metaverse which we are talking about is coming up. Never thought 3 months back actually. 3 months back, we were not talking about it.
Yes.
And it's going to be a revolution actually. So
Yes.
this revolution will bring the mind will explode. It will be an explosion of the mind, a usage of the mind, productive use of the mind. Actually, this is my hope and expectation for startup, and we have yet to see more. I am telling you, we must watch this thing. We'll see bigger and bigger
Sure.
role being
Sure.
played there.
Sure. Yeah, sure, I think valid points, and metaverse is also picking up very well. People are investing millions of dollars virtually there. We have 2 3 minutes quickly left. Mr. Gambhir, please
For
tell
me,
us about the startup point. Mr. Gambhir, please go ahead.
So I will not repeat what Mr. Nagia said. I think I
Right.
will echo that. And maybe additional point is yes, what he said is absolutely right. There's explosion, and rightfully so, because we are known for entrepreneur kind of mindset, but only probably there was enabling environment which was missing, which now has got a root and also rightly funded by money coming from outside. I think a stable environment, an enabling environment would help continuing this kind of investment coming from outside, where
Hmm.
it will not only generate value for country but also provide employment and growth for country. So I guess
Right.
enabling environment and no surprises would help stable tax environment. All of this will help continuing this journey which we have just started.
Sure. Mr. Khanna.
I think both of them have covered in great detail, and I think all
Right.
the points are covered. I only want to add one word, which is basically make their life simple and easy. Just as a startup, I'm a huge a fan of Shark Tank, and
Hmm.
the one thing which all startups are missing is one is a guidance, second is a capital. I think that's something if government can provide more impetus on, provide incubation centers, uh, where somebody can mentor them. And second is the capital availability. I think balance points are covered by both Rakesh and Anil.
Right. Noted your points, gentlemen, and I think those were really remarkable. Thank you so much, Mr. Nangia, Mr. Gambhir, and Mr. Khanna, for joining and sharing your perspective here. Ladies and gentlemen, I think there are very, very valid points that have been raised here. But if I, take a simple thing, that Mr. Nangia and Mr. Khanna and Mr. Gambhir mentioned that in the last budget, the government has announced a lot of things, whether the national infrastructure pipeline or the big disinvestment cycles and all. And even if the government continues to do that and find the execution plan for it, I think we'll achieve more, and everybody's expecting no surprises. That's what, if government looks into it, I think it will be far more better budget this year. So thank you so much for tuning into etcfo.com and joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amol. Thanks,
Thank you.
Rakesh. Thanks, Anil.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you, Rakesh.
Thank you.
Thank you.